I remember that night vividly. I had been at work late, finishing a project I thought was important, excited to come home and spend some time with my wife and kids. The house was unusually quiet when I walked in, the kind of silence that should have been peaceful but immediately set off alarms in my head. Her friends were there. I hadn't been expecting them, but apparently they had all come over spontaneously for a small get-together. I smiled politely, tried to greet everyone, but I could feel her glancing at me in a way that made my chest tighten. There was something in her eyes, a flicker of disdain I hadn't seen in a long time. We all sat in the living room. I offered drinks, tried to engage in small talk, and made a few jokes. But something felt off. The warmth between us, the little jokes, the familiarity, the laughter we shared, was gone. Then I heard it. She leaned toward her friends, voice just low enough for me to hear, dripping with judgment and condescension. "He's good with kids," she said, smiling as if she were complimenting a stranger, "but he's not a real man." I froze. The words were like a knife twisting in my chest, not only because of what she said, but because of the casual cruelty in the way she said it, the laughter that followed, as if this were some harmless gossip to be shared over wine. I wanted to speak up. I wanted to defend myself, to demand an explanation. But I didn't. Something inside me snapped quietly, like a cord being cut. I realized then that confrontation wouldn't fix this. It never had. Words wouldn't undo the years of subtle disrespect, the growing distance, the betrayals I had ignored because I had believed in us. Instead, I smiled politely, excused myself, and stepped into the kitchen. I leaned against the counter, trying to calm my shaking hands, trying to let the reality sink in. This was the woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted with my life, and she didn't just question me privately. She mocked me to her friends. I thought about the little ways it had started, the cold remarks disguised as jokes, the sneering comments when I expressed my feelings, the way she had started to prioritize everyone else over our marriage. I had ignored the signs, brushed off the moments of disrespect, convinced myself it wasn't serious. But hearing her say it aloud, laughing as if it were nothing, made everything crystal clear. She didn't respect me. She didn't value me. And she had never really seen me as her equal, not as her partner, not as the father of her children, not as a man she had once promised to share her life with. I left shortly after that, not with yelling or anger, but with quiet, deliberate resolve. I took the kids to my car, hugged them tightly, and whispered that everything would be okay. I drove away with tears in my eyes, but with a sense of clarity I hadn't had before. The next weeks were painful. I grappled with anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I replayed her words over and over, each repetition sharpening the sting. But slowly, the anger transformed into something else. Awareness. I realized that I had spent years trying to be a good husband, a good father, a man who did everything right, but she had never truly appreciated me. I didn't contact her. I didn't argue. I didn't beg for recognition. I simply focused on building a life where respect and honesty weren't optional. I found strength in my children, in the people who truly mattered, and in the knowledge that my worth isn't defined by someone else's cruel judgment. Years later, I look back on that night not with bitterness, but with understanding. The woman I loved had shown me who she really was, not just through one comment, but through a pattern of disregard, betrayal, and selfishness. And leaving her, stepping away from a marriage that had never truly honored me, became one of the most empowering decisions of my life. Sometimes, the harshest words are a gift. They force you to see the truth, to face reality, and to reclaim your dignity. Her remark about me, spoken so casually, became the catalyst I needed. It reminded me that respect cannot be demanded, it must be given, and that anyone who fails to see your worth doesn't deserve your loyalty, your trust, or your heart. I am a father, a man, and someone who loves deeply. Her words cannot take that away. And while I once felt shattered by the betrayal, I now feel free, knowing I am building a life defined not by someone else's contempt, but by my own integrity, love, and resilience.